7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
What's up, monkeys? Monkey Dan here. Welcome to the Live Wild or Die podcast. This episode, I am stoked to have Coach Michael Hill. He's the Director of Sports Performance at Georgetown University, which is my alma mater. And he started there in 2004, which was my freshman year. And he essentially kind of taught me how to lift and how to train throughout my whole collegiate career. So I've known him for over 15 years now. The dude's a wild man, and I'm going to read his bio just because he's got so much experience, so much knowledge. I just want you guys to really take that in. So he's been at Georgetown University since 2004. He's currently the Director of Sports Performance, and he works specifically with the men's basketball team and also oversees the development of all 29 other teams. And Georgetown men's basketball, there's been tons of guys that have played in the NBA or in the NBA now. So again, the dude's training high-level athletes, and he knows his stuff. In 2018, Coach Hill became a National Academy of Sports Medicine Certification Board member. He's also a board member for Body Mechanics Fitness Cooperative in San Francisco. He's a consultant for Sisu Systems in Washington, D.C. He's a consultant for GoPro Workout in Nashua, New Hampshire. He's been an advisor for us monkiis since back when we were doing the Wild Gym, which that's a whole nother episode. So he's always had our backs, and we really appreciate it. He's also an advisor for Perch Fitness based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. In May of 2017, Coach Hill was recognized as a Master Strength and Conditioning Coach by the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. This is the highest honor a strength coach can achieve. So again, the dude knows his stuff. I really appreciate him taking the time to be on here, and hopefully we can do it again. In 2014, the National Strength and Conditioning Association named Coach Hill one of the top 4 collegiate strength and conditioning coaches in the country. That's enough said there. And there's a ton more I could say. He's got tons of different certifications, and beyond that, you know, what I also really appreciate about him is he thinks outside of just the strength and conditioning and fitness world. He likes to explore other topics, and then I think that all kind of accumulates and comes back in to make better training and just better interactions. So I can't say too much more. So let's just get into it. This is Coach Michael Hill, Director of Sports Performance from Georgetown University. Here we go.
What's up, man?
Coach Hill, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well and wild out here in beautiful Colorado.
There you go. Are you currently outside in the wilderness?
You know, I was briefly on my way. I rode my bike here. It was this crazy headwinds, but unfortunately, I'm not.
Yeah. Because I've seen some of the, obviously the first podcast, but the other ones, you've been sitting outside and hanging out, and I think it's great. Awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it really helped kind of eliminate any distractions.
Yeah.
And yeah, I need to start doing that again. It's starting to get really nice here, so I hope I can bring that back.
Yeah. It kind of, it's, you know, obviously most people are in a studio, and I hope you're not getting any background noise. I'm down in my basement, which would actually be quite sad if you were out in the wilderness and you were out in the, you know, a certain elevation, and I am sitting in my basement, staring at an at-home gym, like, you know.
Oh, man.
No, but how is everything? Good?
Yeah, all's good. It's funny you mentioned the basement. I was doing a call this morning that was recording, and I went in my closet at home because the sound was the best. So it's like this tight little closet, you know. I'm like being all amped, but yeah. Otherwise, all's good. We've got another little monkey on the way coming in May, so about 5 weeks away. Yeah, so
nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
There you go, man. Yeah, starting the tribe. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 kids?
I only have one, actually.
Okay.
And now being in quarantine, so my wife is from Italy, and her mother-in-law lives with us now. So there's 3 of us. So 3 to 1, you know, parent to kid ratio, which is actually great, you know, because if we had 2 or 3, I don't know what we'd do.
Right.
it's just, you can't keep them busy. It makes people now reshape and rethink, like, being in the house, being self-quarantined, like, do you want to do you want to move farther out, so they can have more activities? And if you're self-quarantined, you still have, 5 acres of land to run around,
Right.
It's just, it's all different perspective. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But most of the people here, obviously, that live in DC, you say self-quarantined and they can't go and, do their everyday routine, and they just absolutely go ape shit. Like, everything's shut down and all this, and they're not prepared. And obviously it seems like grabbing toilet paper is now the shitty thing to do, so yeah.
I didn't really think about that compared, because we live, it's basically the suburbs where I'm at right now. We're just renting a townhome,
yeah.
But it's like a neighborhood. So, and it's kind of an older population in general. It's like older population and younger families, but it's like this weird Saturday morning from the Twilight Zone type of scenario every day. That's what it feels like every day.
Every day. No, you hit that nail right in the head. Like, that's exactly my neighborhood to a T. I live in Arlington, so it's farther out, and enough to where, we're not really next on top of our neighbors like we lived in Georgetown, but we have enough space. We have a yard and everything. We have a big enough house where we all can do our own thing in our own rooms. But, I'm sure you got friends who live in the city, big city in New York or wherever. And it's just, I would think it would be maddening to be in an apartment for however many, two weeks with a normal mindset. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a normal everyday mindset. Like, you have to flip that switch to be able to sit in a room by yourself, and it takes a special person to do that and not be affected by that, And so hopefully now everyone's starting to shift in their mindset, reading more and shutting off the TV and, doing more exercises and stuff like that, and finding creative ways to pass the time. So, yeah. For
sure. Well, I think it's been so cool, man, seeing how many people are working out at home. It's, what we've seen on the monkey side is it's, people I haven't heard from years or ever are all of a sudden just like getting after it.
Yeah.
And that's been really cool. So,
for sure. Yeah. Same here. Like I travel, I don't know. You're recording, right? Or
yeah, I've been recording the whole time. So I just, I like the more conversation, man. I don't like going, so what do you think of?
So where are you from?
Yeah.
What's your backstory? No. So here, I traveled, I traveled with the first version. I think it was made out of bamboo, right? The very first one.
Oh yeah.
So I have that with me, and I travel with that with basketball, because you never know where you're going. But now most places have a lot of things, and we do have some downtime, but we normally are hitting. I'm trying to offset sometimes conditioning on those days if we're traveling with the team and with guys who aren't going to play, because they're not getting that stimulus. So most of the time I'm doing interval training and whatnot, but we still do bodybuilding and things. But I do travel with the first version. But the other version that I have, the tactical, I think the Monkey Bars 2 tactical black version, I have that over my door in my at-home gym and whatnot. And I do all the kind of mess around a little bit, but I stick to the basics of that stuff. I do some knee tucks and some rows, chest press, tries, buys, and stuff like that, and I love it. Just hitting out reps and different variations and holds and tempo and stuff like that, controlling the tempo. And so, yeah, it's my home gym is set up. I don't necessarily have a rack in there, but I still do. I have a bar and some weights, and so I do rackless training. Which is very, very good. Just if I don't wear shoes in my home gym, lifting shoes. So after I warm up, or you can still do cleans in your socks or bare feet, and as long as you're not putting too much weight through your system, and just go for reps and intensity and to try and drive it that way. And I guess it comes down to whatever your intent is with that kind of exercise. I'm actually, my body needs a little bit of time away from the barbell. It's more out in the wild, to say.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's been good. It's been obviously it's been humbling, just to be home. I travel so much with basketball, and we're practicing so much and we're at the gym so much. It's good to be away and at my favorite place, which is my home. So, yeah.
As soon as you said the rackless barbell lifting, I've never thought of it that way, but to me that is, it's a way more wild way. And I would almost go on to say natural way to train. Cause I'm trying to think in nature, it would be, I've actually built a squat rack in the wild, but, in a normal nature situation, it would be challenging to get that super heavy load on your back.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to think about it that way.
You remember Coach Carl Johnson at Georgetown? So Coach Carl always he tries to transform himself and do different types of training, and he's always constantly learning and doing things. And he went through a whole phase of rackless training, and it was crazy seeing all the huge stuff that we have at Georgetown, all the Thornex racks and everything. And Carl's dipping a barbell sideways or doing a bear complex over his head, to try and get it behind him. But really, I mean, if you're going to deadlift it, if you're going to shrug it, if you're going to high pull it, if you're going to clean it, if you're going to front squat it and overhead press, I mean, you can behind the neck press from there. I'm a little bit limited because of my ceiling, but you can pretty much do all the Olympic lifts with really no rack.
Right.
That's not to say I don't want a rack, because I actually do. But at the same time, I mean, I've gotten my workout in, and it's still work. I still do. I shouldn't say I still do, but I've still run, a mile pretty much almost every other day. And then I'll shoot around, which is shoot around playing basketball and whatnot. But that's kind of dialed back in a good way. And, I've done more of the body weight stuff, which is helping out my joints in my old age. So
I did a time mile New Year's Day. I hadn't done one for years, just a straight up time mile on the track. And I forgot how hard those things are.
Oh yeah. What was your guys' test that you used to, what was the lacrosse test? Was it a mile or a mile and a half?
We did a mile, and then we also did the 300 shuttles.
Okay. Gotcha. The old school. Yeah. Yep.
For just to explain that real quick. So the 300-yard shuttle is, you have cones 25 yards apart. You run back 25. And forth 6 times, right?
Yep.
And I
think you were trying to get, like a time mile. I think you guys had to have been, I know it was definitely below 7, below.
It was 6. Yeah, it was a 6-minute cutoff. Okay.
That's what I was going to say. It was a good clip, but it was still for you guys, it was definitely manageable and easy. If you were in relatively good shape, you could push through that. And then the 300 is what crushes people. You're trying to get it and shoot. We've seen, I'm in Lancaster on the football team, got it in like 59 seconds, 58 seconds. It was a crazy time you did it, but out there on the field, it's really hard for all those turns after you've done that test, or, it just flushes your system, especially if you're going to do 2 in a row. And obviously the more rest you get, a lot of the times it becomes worse, but all those, you can't mimic like primal. Everyone's now trying to mimic primal movements and certain things, but also just like your business is getting out in the wild and doing things naturally is the best way. So doing things conditioning wise and or sport specific is just doing your sport,
right.
Which a lot of people get away from. Like I said about conditioning and trying to condition those basketball guys at hotels and making a game like situation. It's never going to be game like, but I'm just trying to mitigate and lower that risk, lower that curve a little bit. So.
Right. So what's going on right now with like our teams what's going on?
So we were in New York, on what day it was. We got there on Tuesday. On Wednesday we played, and then basically Wednesday night they said that they weren't going to play any more games without fans. And so I think that was the 11th, maybe 12th of March. And so we got out of there the next day, and then basically kind of self-quarantined ourselves ever since. But, once that hit, once the NBA started canceling games, once the NCAA started canceling games, it was only a matter of time before that just spiraled. And I guess it was more for the fans and getting there and the transportation and everyone getting so close together to help, kind of decrease that risk of contracting the disease. And so, it makes sense. It sucks. a lot of heartbreak and sadness from teams that are in the spring, like lacrosse, who are training all year round just for that moment. In the beginning of your season, you're in the best shape of your life. You're going into the season with a great mindset, ready to go, and all of a sudden it just gets crushed. And that it's almost like having an injury. It's almost like tearing something or doing something that puts you out. You got to now, like we talked earlier about shifting the mindset inside your house and being by yourself, but shifting the mindset of you got to. You're now not in competition anymore. That's been stripped away from you. The rules have been broken, and so you got to train for something else. Train harder if they're going to give back scholarships. What they've taught, or scholarships, years of eligibility, which they have talked about. I'm not sure if they're pushing that, but it would be nice, if you're a senior lacrosse player, it would be nice to come back again the next year. I'm not sure if you would have to be going to school in the summer or the spring or how that would work, but it's definitely heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, like just getting your season canceled, or if you're a senior, if you're graduating school, although are they doing online classes through the college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we went online literally right away.
Wow.
Once they found out, I think it was, we knew that there wasn't going to be fans. We knew that school was probably going to be canceled for a little bit, but they went right online that Monday. And it happened right away, and there was a lot of bumps because a lot of teachers don't use Zoom. They don't use online. They're in the physical, they're in the physical world. So like us, I'm in the human business. I'm in the human business of going to a workout, coaching athletes, seeing it, visualizing it. Now you go online, it's a whole different perspective. It's like, I'm trying to, it's like being up in a space shuttle for however long. You're trying to communicate to these people. You're like, no, the toilet doesn't work in this room. It's not working in the space shuttle. You know what I mean? So it's maddening at some levels, but also I hope everybody comes, thinking philosophically about it, comes back with a better mindset of hey, we should cherish our time together. And you know what? Let me make my home life a little bit better. Let me make my home gym a little bit better. Let me get some books. Let me get some ideas. I have so many things to do. It's almost overwhelming. At home, I got tons of books that I'm trying to read. I got an online course I want to do, and I got a certificate I want to get, and that's not even Georgetown stuff. Not to mention all the stuff that I have to do for work. So definitely have a lot of things to do, but I do miss the human-to-human connection.
Oh, absolutely, man. What are the books? What's the course, and what's the certificate?
So certificate is the NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association. It's the tactical strength and conditioning coach.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
The tactical, the military side. Yeah. Yeah. I just finished a book called The Protected, and it was all about executive protection. And he was a agency officer who traveled around the world and was in the military and the Air Force. And then he started doing executive protection. And it's a lot about, kind of the world right now and the paranoia and all the measures that you need to take, but that you should be thinking about so you can be safe. It's like, I'd rather have a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Right.
And right. So it's kind of that same mindset. And then I just finished another book, Stillness is the Key by, and I'm just forgot the name of the author, which is sad. I just literally finished it. So I finished that, which is all explaining same stuff here in the world. Ryan Holiday.
Nice. Okay.
Daily Stoic and stuff like that. So it's highly recommend if you're wanting to read something about the times now and being still and being in your home. That's a great book. And then now I finished that in a couple days, and then now Quantum Speak. It's Ignite the Fire Within. It's kind of, about just your desires and things that you want to do, and riding that quantum wave and how you should do it. And if you feel like moving to Hawaii, move to Hawaii. If you feel like doing this, do this. So I don't know. Kind of three conflicting books, but they're all right there.
Oh, hell yeah. Holiday. I just finished Obstacles Away, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Really enjoyed that.
This is the first one of his books that I've read. I meant to read the Daily Stoic first.
Okay.
And then this book was just home. Somebody had given it to my wife, so obviously out there listening to the universe, I just picked it up and I started reading it. Obviously being still at home, but The course online is through the Santa Fe Institute, which is good source of information and online learning through their Complexity Explorer courses.
Okay.
And this one is on fractals and understanding fractals, a deeper dive into fractals. So I guess if you're looking at let's say heart sizes and veins and vesicles, it's comparing mice all the way to humans, all the way to elephants. Like comparing the levels and caloric intakes and expenditures of all of those. There's a scale to that, right?
Okay.
There's a reason elephants don't have to eat just a ton of food in order to get big. There's a reason humans need a certain amount of food to stay the way they are. There's a reason animal or mice only have to eat just small little things and can withstand a lot. And there's fractals all over. I mean, with like snowflakes, snowflake patterns and things. There's little patterns that are around the world that you can look at, and it really opens up your eyes to a lot of different things. Trees, an example of a fractal. You can take the roots of a tree and then follow it up and spread it out, and there's different little patterns that are at the smaller level, but the bigger level in forests and worlds and all sorts of stuff. So very interesting out there. I guess you could say wild stuff. But,
oh yeah, I was gonna say that is wild, man. Fractals,
Yeah.
Fractal. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that
Fractals,
out.
look it up. There's fractal geometry. There's a lot of stuff, but there's a book that I read a long time ago called Scale by Jeffrey West.
Okay,
and I think he's still the president of the Santa Fe Institute. But that book is wild. It'll give you a good perspective on a lot of things. It makes you think about like cities. So for instance, there's scales on like crime rates. In smaller cities, there's a lower crime. In bigger cities, there's a higher crime. And looking at cities like their organisms, right now, obviously the organism is sick. So people are moving out of the cities. They're getting away from that. They're taking measures to eradicate that disease within that city. And, why is that city so densely populated with all these people? And, how much trash comes out of that? How much are we exposing or exposing from the city is definitely relative to how big it is. Where I live in Iowa, the trash is not as much as, New York City. And that goes into an organism, the more you eat, the bigger the shit,
Right.
or the less you eat, the less you shit. Right. So
right.
It's, there's all sorts of different ways and there's different scales within that. So yeah, it's a good book. I highly recommend anybody read that, and that'll open up a whole new perspective on, how you look at things and how things around you may seem dead, but they're actually really alive.
That's, when you said how that elephant can eat, so for the fractal, back to the fractal, is that something where like an elephant can eat relatively less in proportion to a smaller, like you said, a mouse? Is that kind of the way it works?
There's a whole section on like fractal metabolic rates.
Okay.
And there's a scale to that. And I'm not, I guess, privy to the exact numbers on all that stuff, but yeah, there's definitely a scale,
Okay.
And humans fall kind of in the middle of that. So
I was always wondering about that because there's this guy here in Boulder. His name's Anton Krupichna. He's like this crazy ultra endurance athlete. He was one of the early winners of the Leadville 100, but literally every day he gets up and rides his bike 100 miles or runs like a 50K or, climbs thousands of vertical. I mean, it's pretty much every single day. And I just, I'm like, how many calories does this guy have to eat? But he's always talking about how he doesn't drink that much water and he barely carries food with him. So hearing what you're describing, it seems how there's a deeper physiology to that.
Yeah, there's only, and now you're seeing the trend of people saying that, intermittent bouts of fasting, that's the way to go. Like that way has been around for quite some time. It's just the breakfast, lunch, dinner is kind of like Valentine's Day, right? It's like somebody told us that was supposed to be real, and now it's fucking real, right?
Oh man!
I don't know. I love
that's a great
Valentine's
analogy.
Day. That's great. So I don't know. I mean, I used to wake up and I used to eat my breakfast and all that stuff and do all that. And finally, I just like one day I'm like, I'm tired of this shit. Like I really do love to eat breakfast, but at the same time, I like breakfast for dinner. And so it's like I can easily just drink my coffee, get a workout in. I don't care about that certain metabolic time frame, anabolic time frame, 30 minutes and whatever. I normally just eat when I want to eat and sleep when I want to sleep. And I am on pretty much a 2-meal a day diet.
Okay.
And I used to be, take this conversation in a different way, I guess, but there used to be a bigger breakfast and a smaller lunch and then a mediocre dinner, where now it's kind of smaller lunch, no breakfast, smaller lunch, and then a bigger dinner. And I do snack. I don't hold off on calories or anything. I don't need to consume that much from the world. I'm fine. I'm not going to be the 280 pound, 600, 700 pound deadlifter. I'm fine with, being able to sprint my mile and do my push-ups and jump over that wall when the zombies hit, which is probably pretty soon,
which
right?
could be next week.
So I don't want to be intermittent bouts of fasting when the zombies hit, before I run off. But yeah, no, I think I shouldn't say that everyone's kind of going to that thinking of the new age thinking of, consuming in good and better quality foods, and better quality everything really in general, and trying to better yourself to last longer, last out this coronavirus really.
Right. Yeah. It's a great opportunity for avoid going to the store.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, I had been playing around with the skipping breakfast or whatever the last year or so. And, I would notice it was almost like I wasn't hungry, but it was the habit of eating more so. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's ingrained in you. What I mean? Being a strength coach, I've said that before. I'd be hypocritical. I just denied that. Like I have said, you need to eat this, you need your calories, but sometimes, some people just, they're not made for that. If there's any thought to eat right for your blood type, I mean, that book or the 4 different types of diets. I forgot the name of that book, but if there's any positives to that, there's definitely positives. Each person has their own style to their own metabolic process that can go through with whatever foods they consume, and obviously everybody has allergies now, so there's a unique equation to everybody with that.
Right.
You just don't have to eat protein shakes after every workout, like people who experience bloatiness and fartiness, and for a while, and then all of a sudden they're like, why am I doing this to myself? I just want to eat regular food, right? So yeah.
Well, it's really refreshing to hear you say that, because we'll get asked on a pretty regular basis, what should I eat? What's the best diet? And it's like, honestly, I have no idea, probably real food, but as far as macros and exactly what, it's like, it's a personal experiment and journey, and I think there's a strong tendency for people to want to be more dogmatic, but I love it when people say it's very personal. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, if food's available, I mean, I will eat it, but I try not to, I'm trying not to waste any food either too, and being mindful of all of that stuff. Cause we are lucky to have good foods and whatnot. I don't choose, I don't go out and eat a whole lot out. I maybe eat out maybe once a month, with basketball, we're traveling, we eat at the hotel, but I don't consume any fast food or anything. I don't know the last time I had fast food or even a soda, or even really sweets. I don't really eat that many sweets. I'd rather consume more salty than anything. But yeah, I guess in general, I consume more water now, and the caffeine and coffee craze is kind of slowed down just a little bit. But I still drink my coffee every morning. So
for sure. Actually, I hate to admit this, but I crush decaf, man. I crush it.
Yeah.
I'll crush a whole pot, and it's probably the equivalent to a cup or a cup and a half of regular coffee, but I just like that warm liquid, and the decaf's pretty good now, surprisingly.
No, there's there's a placebo effect to that. There's studies that show just eating an apple in the morning is equivalent to a cup of coffee, waking you up. Also if it's your intent, if you wake up every morning and you like to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you can't start your day without it. I mean, that's living inside your mind, inside your body. If you need that, then yeah, go for it. I mean, that's probably a good placebo effect with that.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you is what,
Mm-hmm.
so I graduated, I guess the last year I was playing, or my last season was in 2009. So about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And man, the weight room. So backtrack a little bit. When I was at school at Georgetown, Coach Hill, he was coaching me. He taught me how to lift pretty much. But the weight room was like this curtained off section because there was construction going on. But now it's like this beautiful fortress of weights and platforms and pull. It's a work of art. But is the training much different from what we were doing back then, or is it more or less the same? Or
it's funny that you asked that, because Carl Johnson brought that up in a speech that I was given at Todd Hammer's clinic. We showed the clinic, we showed the facility at the clinic, showcased it, and Carl was like, "Is the training different?" And to be honest, no. Same thing at my house. Like, the training is not that much different. You're still going to push, pull, explosive, whatever, do your core work, get your conditioning in, all that stuff. It's not, things haven't really changed. Same thing up in space. Shoot, when we were talking about NASA and being up in a space shuttle, like, they still get on the bike and do their cardio. They're still paying attention to their nutrition. They're still making sure that they get their deadlifts in on the ARAD. Like, it's not, there's not much deviation from that training, from those movements. I mean, you're all fighting against gravity. So, and you're trying to fight against, your age, really. You're trying to slow it down and whatnot. And just walking in the monks outside in the grass, and nature breathing is good for your body, good for your system. But the training for us, really, I mean, we've got more coaches, we've got better, newer equipment, Sornex exercise equipment. We got Alico. Sornex exercise did all of our racks. Okay. We have three different weight rooms for those of you who have never seen the Georgetown facility. There's one for men's basketball, there's one for women's basketball, and then there's a main weight room facility that's about 10,000 square feet. And then we have a 50 yard turf. So it's only 15 yards wide, but it's 50 yards long, which for all the warm up and everything. And then we have 20 racks in that facility. But Sornex did all that. Play Flooring did all of our flooring, and then Alico Barbells did all the plates and barbells. So we just stuck with three simple, companies that we had good relationships with, that came in and really knocked it out of the park. I mean, it mirrored the one that you had worked out in, which is Yates Fieldhouse. Right. And so we wanted that to still be kind of the staple of our racks, our training, kind of module training, because as you know, we have 27, 29 sports with 600 plus 650, sometimes 700 athletes coming through there. You can't have, a global gym and have tons of different pieces out there. It just doesn't work like that. We still use all the simple movements just to keep it in line and not bottleneck our program. So, right. Yep. I'm kind of the same way. Like, I like coming up with new products, but it's based on kind of these older principles and movements, yeah. And it's just, I think the fitness industry always wants to, there's always this tendency for like the latest and greatest, and for lack of a better word, gimmicks, but it's really the knowledge is kind of already known. It's just applying it correctly. Yeah. Yeah. And adapting to the environment around you. Right. I mean, we could have stayed in that facility for a very long time. It just, everything else and the arms race within the collegiate setting, and just, we had grown out of our shell, really, because the athletic department was adding on more people, more sports, more of this, you need a basketball facility, you need more locker rooms, you need a bigger training room, all that stuff just happened to organically grow. And so we grew out of that, and we had to build a new one. And eventually, 30 years down the road, we're going to grow out of this one. If we're still here, I guess.
Oh, totally. Is the new building, does it back up to the field?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Right. So where the tennis courts used to be. So
okay.
It's adjacent to the football field and the McDonough Arena.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Gosh. Yeah. I'll see videos of you guys getting after it in there. I'm just like, but it's like you said, it's same thing, just different setting. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Yep. Haven't missed much,
Right.
Yeah.
Have you experimented, or do you have a big opinion on like breath and breath work and any of that stuff?
Yeah, I do. Obviously everything starts with that, right? Everything starts with, air in and air out, and your muscles can only, there's, I guess, a reason that your muscles in your body can only last so long without it. And so using it within exercises, we teach, I guess I should backtrack. I don't know enough, but I know enough to know that I don't know anything, right? So I guess saying that is we try and teach breathing to what we know, but I'm not in there, cueing it at every single lift or every single to every single athlete, or trying to control the room with the breathing. I try and do little things like talking to the athletes while they're working out, so I know they're not holding their breath, or making them count out their reps, or maybe it's a 1 to 2 rep max on what they're doing, and they for some reason you have to hold your breath,
right.
Or giving them a cue. Maybe it's a 3 rep max, maybe it's a 4, and saying hold your breath for these first 2 and then blow out for the third, and all that stuff. It gets kind of controversial with a lot of things. Should you hold your breath? Should you not? Should you breathe every single rep? Right. So if you're doing 10 reps on a squat, should you breathe for every single rep? I guess there's different schools of thought on that and how you break all that down. But I guess, again, I don't know enough to, I guess, be an expert and, give a stamped opinion on that. I just know that if athletes are aware of it and they're not holding their breath and impeding their movements, then it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was listening to Brian McKenzie talk to Kelly Starrett, and he was talking about the girl Tia, that I think she's won the CrossFit Games. I can't remember her last name. She's from Australia. But basically they were saying they had her do this nasal only breathing, specifically for, more cardio focused type of things. And I started experimenting with that, and I noticed it was like, instead of pouring gas on a fire, it was more like pouring, maybe like rubbing alcohol. So it was a slower burn, a little bit lower burn. It kept me from redlining.
Yeah.
But I felt
it's hard to do.
better. Yeah. It was an interesting experiment. It definitely, there was a threshold that as soon as I went over it at a certain heart rate, I would have to mouth breathe, but it was a really interesting experiment that I'm still playing around with.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Cal Dietz was the first one to come up with that, but like Cal Dietz, Alex Luring, like those guys at Minnesota, they're experimenting with, taping your mouth shut and just nasal breathing, or I've heard of people sleeping with their mouth shut or trying to do work. I mean, I probably wouldn't drive a car doing that, but I probably would. I probably would. I mean, because what is it? Hypoxic. You don't want to go without oxygen for too long, and if that's even a word, I'm not sure. But,
no, you're right.
So, like, I'm not sure the effects of that, but it definitely has some. I guess there's a reason, and I go back to this, but there's a reason why you have a nose and a mouth. There's a reason why you're supposed to inhale through your nose. I'm pretty sure you should exhale through your mouth, but, just experimenting with that and doing that just will tax your lungs and your heart in a different way. Speaking of being at a home gym, how do you, without a BFR product, how can you tax your muscles with little weight? Do you hold your breath? Do you tape your mouth shut? Do you tape your nose shut? Do you close your eyes to get the proprioception, work into it? Like I said, I don't use shoes at my house just because my floor, but it's nice for me to get out of shoes and walking around in my socks or bare feet to do some movement. So all that stuff is interesting. I think everyone should definitely play around with it before they give an opinion on that. But yeah, breathing has become, I shouldn't say it's a word or a type of training that's become trendy because it's always been around, but people are, I guess, more aware of it. People are meditating more. People are stilling their mind more. People are slowing their system down. And so breathing has become a part of that. And there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great work out there. I think when in sports, when it comes down to it and you're playing and you're running around, you're going to do what your body wants to do. And if you haven't practiced any of that stuff, it's not going to transfer over, or you're going to go back to your original movements and breathing. So, we do a little bit, but not too much.
Okay. Well, it's been interesting watching just training and fitness for the last decade or so, how there's like this hierarchy that's being built. It's like people would always go hard and, people were lifting heavy, but then they're getting a little bit smarter about it. Olympic weightlifting got a lot more popular. And then people are adding in, breath work and then the mind and mobility, flexibility. Mm-hmm. It's been really cool the last decade, really seeing this people just go up this hierarchy. So I'm excited. Yeah. I think, the monkiis, the people listening, they're definitely following that trajectory. So it's encouraging to hear.
Well, yeah. I mean, now with this, coronavirus, this is definitely not going to be, this wasn't the first one and it's not going to be the last, right? So people are now gonna shift towards the monkey mindset, right? So they're going to shift towards the at-home gym. What can I do at home? What can I do outside? Right. Oh, I can do a pull-up on a tree. Really? I can, I remember back watching your videos back in the day when you're, running with a log on the beach and just throwing it and throwing rocks. Like that stuff is real, but it's going to get back down to, people are going to have to, probably scared some people out of their minds to where they're going to have to get out in the garden and start doing some actual work to have some self-sustainable, food or some type of a water filtration system or something, So I guess you could say it's the age of kind of purification, as some mystics really say. But getting the trend, I think, is going to be towards like the wild type of fitness and the at-home fitness. You're going to definitely see that shifting, and this is definitely a stamp on that.
For sure. Yeah, I love the shift towards, a little bit more self-reliance, personal responsibility, but then also just, building. It's so funny. I saw a headline actually, and it's totally true, but, interacting with my neighbors, I've literally never seen before the last week or so. Of course, like, you're 30 yards away talking, hey, how you doing, Bob, or whatever. But that's been really cool to see. And yeah, like you said, just that shift back to kind of basics and realizing that, things are a little more fragile than they may seem. So I hope and pray this is a lucky, as bad as these things could be. I'm hoping this doesn't turn super bad and it's a good lesson and we can, grow a lot from it. And kind of like you said, it's kind of a purification. So
yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely an interesting time. It's just going to the grocery store now, just being mindful of who you're walking by. Should I breathe that air 6 feet if I'm within 6 feet? Like, do I hold my breath? Speaking of breath, do I tape my nose and hold my breath and, walk by them? It's really interesting. These measures that are being put in place is just hopefully making people aware of their own shell and what they're doing and being mindful of it. So,
right. The thing I wonder is how long I hope there's not this kind of lagging, almost like, I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's not repulsion, but people being kind of cautious of each other when it's unnecessary. Does that make sense? Like everyone's kind of like, oh, that guy's sick. I hope there's not this lag. I just hope, I think the good thing would be if people next year when we get flu season or another round of this, it's people are a little more cognizant of staying home if they do get sick, things like that. So I just hope the social distancing doesn't become kind of ingrained in society long term.
Yeah, there's definitely, I would imagine there's definitely a fear of that, just being outside and my daughter running up to the fence to talk to the neighbor kids. I mean, it's like, okay, don't touch each other.
Right.
Definitely don't spit on each other.
Right.
Don't do it. Like it's strange that you're saying that, and even going out for a run, it's kind of strange running down the street. And it's like, somebody sees you 100 feet away and they cross the street and they run across the street. It's like, what, did I fart? Do I smell? Can you smell me? Is this strange? It's strange, but, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's, I guess, same thing. It's like me and my wife went for a walk and we were walking outside and, you walk by and you smell a flower and then you get a couple feet away and you can't smell it anymore. It's like, people are going to take that distance, that negative distance. And so they're not going to get close to each other. There has to be some effect to that long term. If you're not smelling those flowers, if you're not getting close to other humans, it's going to be interesting. I just hope, like you said, I hope it doesn't last long term.
Right. Well, just, I could see with like friends and family, that should wear away quickly, but I could see like in crowds, it could have
100%.
this long lasting effect. So, it's, I think it's just something to be cognizant of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you in Iowa right now? Or are you still in DC?
No, I'm still in Virginia. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Virginia.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. If I guess if things shut down a little bit more, I probably will take a road trip to Iowa because still got a lot of stuff. Still got a farm there and everything.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And my parents still live there, and my sister, and so going to see them, even though my parents are older and don't want to bring anything to them, but I could still go and be there, be around, and be supportive, and there's definitely a lot of work to do. So
right. What, I was thinking about this. I looked it up. There's about 60 million people that have gym memberships.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that's going to play out with long term?
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. That's exactly, the kind of underlying effect of that is the restaurants and getting food. But the wellness aspect of that, gym memberships, all the little boutiques of, personal training studio boutiques and mind, body, spirit types boutiques that are out there, that are trying to thrive with people coming in. It's saddening at some level because they're going to have to change the way they do things and change the way their business model is set up, but they're definitely going to take a hit like everybody else. They're definitely going to take a pretty hard hit because once they get back, it's almost like, even before when you looked at somebody who was sweaty and didn't wipe down that bench, now you're not going to want to get on that bench for 5 minutes, It's like, when planes take off, there's a reason two planes don't take off one right after another, like in car traffic. It's because of the jet wash. Everyone's going to have this human wash that was around them that they need to literally wash and, wipe down and, sterilize and whatever before you can go and step into that space. I was reading something that said that the virus can stay on cardboard for 24 hours, stainless steel for a certain amount of time, plastic for this. And it's like, once that information just gets ingrained in people's heads, I mean, the mail and Amazon, hopefully people are wearing gloves and all that stuff, but just getting stuff delivered, it's changed the whole perspective on it. People are going to start leaving their mail outside for 24 hours, or spraying it down. Shit, I don't know. Right. But, but it could be the ramifications could get a little crazy and overboard, and probably for good reason, probably for good reason. So there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of this, and there's definitely going to be a lot of bad. But I hope the good outweighs the bad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's been weird. where I see everything the most, what really freaked me out a little bit was the first time I went to the store once it was like, okay, coronavirus is here. We're going to be dealing with it. It was the first time I went to the store and I walked in because I honestly didn't know what to expect. Cause you hear on the news, like, it's this crazy run. I walk in, everyone's chill. It's calm. There's stuff everywhere. It's not like the shelves are empty, except I started going down the aisles and then it was like these random, like rice, pasta, these long shelf life things are all gone. And then seeing people with carts just full of cans and all that, I didn't like the way that made me feel. I felt like, oh my gosh, no, I got to do that. I didn't, but
yeah. I mean, that's the same thing out here. When we got back from New York, we came down and, I went home and, we have stuff here, right. But, it took a couple of days before I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And, I went to the grocery store and literally I was like, what is this outside? There's people all over the place. And, there was a line for carts to get inside. And I'm like, a line for carts. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this pass. I'm going to let the normal work week go by. Monday, Tuesday rolls around. And I went to the grocery store middle of the day and there was nobody. There was people there, but, all the stuff had been picked over. People were running around. I saw a guy looking. I should have taken a photo of it, but I didn't want to be weird. But a guy, he had gloves on, a mask, a stocking cap, shirt zipped or coat zipped all the way up to his neck. And he had plastic gloves on and he was looking at a ketchup bottle. And he had a ketchup bottle in his hand, and I wanted to be like, Jesus, like that red 40, that red 40 and that ketchup is going to kill you faster than this coronavirus probably will.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, it was interesting, and I grabbed certain staples that we normally grab, but I didn't take any more than what I normally take. And we've been to the grocery store a couple of times, but at the same time, I still have canned food, I still have waters, I still have stuff, food that lasts long, but that's just me being from Iowa and just being prepared for any type of blizzard or weather condition or power outage. And, so hopefully people don't start running for Denver airport too soon. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But yeah, it's interesting times. And I think, now probably the grocery store, business, having that type of a rush, they're probably going to change, their layout maybe a little bit to, hey, these are all the foods that quarantine foods. They're in the corner. This is all we have. The rest of the food is perishables on this side. Just like all the health foods and vegetables are now here. The frozen food is here. Maybe some stores will do that, but it's interesting.
Right. That's really smart. That's super smart. There's a local, just a small little grocery store. It's a 5-minute walk from our place, and they switched to their meat counter. Instead of having 40 different cuts and varieties, they had ground beef, a few steaks, chicken breast. They just kept it super simple just so they could push the volume. But it's just it's really interesting to think about all these economic consequences, social consequences that they're so hard to predict, that are going to be the result of this. So it's an interesting conversation I'm sure we'll be having for years.
Yeah. I mean, not to take this podcast and conversation a different way. It's like 9/11. I mean, all of a sudden there's TSA everywhere and we have all those, measures in place and all these other measures for good reason, and even it's annoying at sometimes probably, but, they're trying to, fend off another attack of some kind or something else that they can't foresee. And so hopefully they'll be good out of it. And hopefully they'll, some of those, like we talk about the fitness industry, hopefully some jobs will be created out of this mess, that will help people, so yeah.
So are you guys doing any online coaching with the athletes or anything like that? Or is it just totally, how's that going down?
So we sent all of the athletes are sent home. I mean, obviously everything's online for campus for Georgetown University. The teachers are doing the online Zoom courses, whatever. We have suspended all practices, all competitions, all of that, which is a new kind of obviously thing for us. So it's like having a winter storm come through here. Right. But you can't have little meetings and practices on campus. you have to have them online. But we have switched to a company called Team Builder. And so Team Builder, who is here in Virginia, we put our athletes online, and we can send them workouts and programs. But it's one thing if they're here at Georgetown and we can control their environment, but them being home and, one kid may not have anything. One kid may not even have space at home. Some kids, at Georgetown, that some kids don't have homes. Some kids have very, very nice homes with full-on gym. So,
right.
So I guess thinking back to the scale of that, all the way up to all the way down, it's going to be very diverse. And so programming definitely has to be unique and definitely individualized, which is harder on our end. But at the same time, I'm definitely hopeful that, once the end of the school year hits, everything will get back to normal, May, and then all of a sudden June comes and summer school rolls around, whereas Georgetown summer school isn't, there's not a whole lot of people around. And so by the time that hits, and then, that goes through that period. But once August hits, all the athletes coming back, hopefully it doesn't affect that. If that happens, we'll definitely have to do, we'll take some different measures then. But as of right now, just kind of staying the course.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious if there was, I remember getting, the summer program, the winter packet, and I was lucky that my high school was very welcoming to, former students coming back or alumni coming back and training in the weight room, which was awesome. But I could see how, a lot of folks don't have that. So I was curious.
Yeah. It's, I guess the archaic way of doing it would be just to send, an Excel format to everybody, which still works out great, sending that summer packet and all that stuff. Because in the reality, how many people are actually going to take that packet? They're going to take it, and how many people are going to take it and do the full packet? So, if you send out a full-on packet, you can probably, best guess, 50-50. It's what you're probably going to get.
Sure.
Some people, hopefully, everybody does it, but at the same time, everybody's got a unique way of learning and doing things. So, for me, like I try and stay on a schedule here. Even when I was lifting at Georgetown, like I try and stay on a schedule, but it's kind of, it's a daily theme. Like today is my cardio day. Today is body weight day. Today is, I'm doing Olympic lifting, or today is bodybuilding,
Totally.
Just try and stay within a theme. And, I try not to mix too much together. And I used to do that a lot. And that's kind of like, nutrition, just throwing stuff in all together into one soup and then trying to make it taste good with a little bit of salt. And it just, sometimes it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone listening that, they're home, they didn't work out, they weren't working out before this all went down, but they see it as an opportunity to start training? What would your advice be for them?
Usually my advice in terms of working out is the cardio portion first, just to get your blood flow moving and get your lungs at a very low level, your lungs and your heart rate going, so you could do the push-ups, so you can do the calisthenics, so you can do the weight training and eventually the squats and cleans and all that stuff, building up to the pyramid. One would be obviously standing up more around your home, walking around more in your home. If you're confined to your home and inside your house, walking up and down the steps, just simple, standing up more and walking. If you have an outside, walking outside within nature, going outside and taking long and just say walks. That's it. Then you can ramp it up a little bit. I'm not really encouraging anybody to jog or do sprints, but if you're just walking more and moving around more, that's step number one, really. And then being cognizant of what you're eating and how much you're eating. That would be the first couple steps. And then next is literally just adding in stretches. I feel mobility work will get you feeling like, wow, I do like this, right? I do like moving around, and just simple yoga, not just like type in YouTube clip on yoga and doing that. And, if they don't have the monkey bars and don't have dumbbells and stuff like that, just getting that mobility in, and that'll kind of open up the doors to a lot of the isometric work that people do And then the hierarchy will start flowing into, okay, now I want to do, rather than hold warrior 2 for however many minutes or whatever seconds, I'd rather do some lunges, or I'd rather do, rather than, chaturanga, or however you say that, chaturanga. And I'd rather do some push-ups, right? Or I'd rather do some planks, and then move it from there. And then you start moving your body and different ways in space and time and different planes. And then what you were talking about earlier was the training hasn't changed. And then you get into the 7 movement patterns, the vertical press, pull, squat, hinge, stuff like that, like all those, breaking all that down into, another pattern, and then flowing inside that pattern, with different types of med balls and, different systems like the monkey bars, or like a band, like dumbbells, like a barbell and stuff like that. But that pattern also flows up and down, at the same time, me being very active and always moving and always doing things, I've had to now downshift into where I'm laying down more. But now I've gotten back to just walking, walking around my block, and I don't have to put a huge rucksack on with 50 pounds on my back. I can just move at a good clip, maybe put on a podcast like I did this morning, and just walk around for however many minutes the podcast is. And once I see the podcast winding down, then I just start walking back home. And that's good. Your body needs that sometimes, just walking will stimulate great blood flow through the feet and back up. Right. So yeah, that's kind of long in a nutshell. My advice is just get up, stand up, start walking up and down your steps, moving more, and then move yourself into kind of more of the ground-based yoga style, stationary poses, and that'll open up the door to isometrics and then movement patterns.
Oh, for sure. I love that you said the walking too, because I've been really thinking about that and encouraging the same thing recently, just because I was talking with a buddy. We were training for the Grand Canyon run. This was about a year and a half ago. And we were just out one day chatting, and our conclusion was walking is probably one of the most natural, normal human things you can do from like an activity standpoint. But yeah, it's kind of hard to do depending on where you live now. Yeah.
Your elevation. I mean, like it for me right now, if I would go, I'm definitely not acclimated to go to your elevation and start sprinting around, let alone lifting, or playing basketball. Like if I would go and get acclimated, I would just go walk, and not even on a hike. Right. I mean, I probably could do it, but I would struggle, I'd get the headaches, the nosebleed, and, the cramps and things from just doing that. So yeah, I do wish I'd lived at elevation, but there's some, at the same time, living here has its advantages as well.
Oh, sure.
But just going out on a hike on up to the mountains, it's definitely just taxing on your system just to walk up at a certain elevation. I do that at hotels. I put it up to about 10%, and I try and walk at 3.5 for however long. And I usually get somebody on the phone while I'm doing that, or I listen to a podcast, but I usually try and get somebody on the phone and try and have a conversation. So I'm expelling more air, so it taxes my system in a different way. Because I did the thing back when I was younger, and kind of the Rocky training, Muhammad Ali, where they get up every morning, Mike Tyson, and you do your jogging, you do your running, but you don't see any of the other training that they're doing, right? They're not seeing all the other stuff that they're doing. And so I used to keep myself in the quotes shape by going out and doing distance cardio, and I loved it. I still love it, but my body just can't handle that anymore. Going out and pounding myself into oblivion, and it's not the mental side of it. I could probably push through it. It's more, I don't want to deal with that on the back end, the recovery aspect of it right now. I just rather feel better,
right.
Feel better as a whole, holistically.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not really training for anything other than the zombies coming, but that's, just trying to keep it simple.
What was really eye-opening to me was the first season I spent in the wild. I was living / working at about, 8,000 to 10,000 feet. you know, hiking 5 to 10 miles a day, doing physical work all day. And then I still have the energy to train, not necessarily like a full hour and a half long session, but I'd still do, you know, specific, like, you know, pull ups, chin ups, squats, whatever. But, I noticed that time it like hypercharged my fitness level, and just, it was interesting how you could do all that work, that low intensity, just kind of activity, mainly walking, and still feel great and do it day after day. And it never broke me down in the same way that, like, you know, trying to run sprints or, you know, run hard miles and lift heavy, how that can kind of break you down more. So that was just super eye opening for me. And, you know, walking isn't the sexiest thing to tell people to do, but I really believe it's just, it's kind of like this base level activity fitness you need to check off before you can start again climbing that pyramid. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Yeah.
I mean, I am not sure where I read this or found this, but there's a certain, you know, the military, they'll run, you know, they'll run you however many miles, but there's a certain point where you're going to ruck and you're going to walk, because they know how much damage it can do to the body. And, you know, you can't sustain an army running a marathon every single day. Like that just won't happen, but you can break that up. And there's at some point you have to walk. And so, yeah, you know, and not to get out there, but the whole concept of grounding, you know, where people need to, I mean, they're sitting in, you know, I got plastic sandals on right now. I got socks on, you know, standing on a tile floor, like being inside my house, my body's probably charged to a certain extent in some different way, you know, going out, taking your shoes off, putting your feet in the mud and walking around in the grass is, you know, like a hobbit, really. It's like, it has some grounding effect to it. And you can look that up on YouTube. It's definitely a real thing. Grounding. It's you know, there's something to be said about putting your feet in some soil and, you know, getting back to the wild and Mother Earth and, stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I think
out there.
Yeah, no, I 100% believe that, because you can feel it when you do it. You can feel it, you know. So I 100% believe that. And, you know, obviously we've from day one, our whole genesis has been, we always say we were born in the wild. So that's where our roots lay. And, you know, it's a bummer that folks are kind of inside now, but hopefully if you have a backyard or even just your, you know, I've been setting up just on my front door. So at least I'm, you know, in the sunshine, you know, so any little bit I think is a step in the right direction.
For sure. I also, taken to the right or the left, but, have you read, I remember talking to you about, this guy, he wrote a book called Touch the Top of the World. I'm going to butcher his last name, but Eric Weinenmeyer. I got referred to him by a friend whose mother is blind, and he is a blind man who has overcome amazing obstacles and summited 7 summits, and went to Mount Everest with him and his partner and did it blind, and just has overcome a lot of different things and trials and tribulations, but great book. He lives apparently out in Golden, Colorado.
He's right down the road.
I remember we were texting, I feel like at one point, and I had asked you if you had met him. I'm pretty sure it was you. Maybe it was another friend, but he lives right down the road. He would be somebody to reach out to or to read his book. I mean, it's amazing, you know, some of the things that he's done and how he had to take his fitness level and just walking, and was a challenge because obviously he was blind, and so he had to take in certain things and take certain measures, and it's very interesting. So that's a great book. I would say if any of the listeners want a book recommendation, Touch the Top of the World is an amazing book.
I'll write that down. Yeah, he's a wild man for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
He's around. He's around. Touch the Top of the World. Well, man, I can talk training forever.
Yeah,
but I don't want to take away from your training time, family time. So I appreciate you coming on. I think the monkiis are going to be stoked. You've got a lot more wisdom than I do on the training side. So I'd love, hey man, if you're down, I'd love to do this again sometime. So
absolutely,
I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me on. It's been a good journey watching you guys grow, you know, from when you were at Georgetown until now. Like, you've taken the monkey bars to, you know, in a wild way to new heights. And so, no, I hope this trend now comes and brings people out of their global gyms, which would be bad for that business, but out into the wild, just places what you guys are doing. So,
right.
Yeah, it's been an honor, man.
All right, well, thanks so much, man. Stay safe, stay
Good
wild
stuff.
out there, and
Yep.
we'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Take care, Coach Hill.
Yep.